Mike from around the world.
Pastor Paul, God bless you.
I need some volume, Israel. God bless you.
Let's see how we sound here. What about that? Is that a little better?
Oh, that sounds much better. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Good. Mike, I can't believe it's been a week since the last time we talked. There's been some crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, it sure has. Seems like everything is falling apart, but, well, let's talk about it.
Let's do that. You know, before we jump into the Middle East here, I just got to start with the lead story. And this artificial sun, China breaks an all-time record that they've heated the sun 8 times hotter than our sun. And they sustained it for 101 seconds. This blew away all their records. What's going on here, Mike? What are they doing, and how dangerous is this?
Well, that is I'll tell you something. Tonight, I get this feeling tonight we're going to just kind of blow a cap off this, the wordplay the world is pulling. Anyway, all the countries of the world are involved with China, with this Star City, I'm going to call it Star City, which is they're trying to create fusion. They have successfully done that. They already did that. Not fission, fusion. Fusion has no byproduct like fission, right? Fission creates, radiation and waste and all that good stuff. Fusion does not. Every country is involved except the United States.
Why aren't we involved?
Well, we're involved unofficially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they've gotten a lot of our money too. So the entire world is involved in this, right? It's what this world is like it really is like a big lie, the way things are set up. It really is. But, everybody's been involved. They will accomplish this. Now, I know what they'll probably say is going to be a few years before fusion or that power center is viable. They're lying about that, too. China needs that to power those cities. Those cities are for the elite of the world. Russia has the secondary city sites for protection just in case the U.S. fails. So they're all working in tandem. They're all working in unison here. We have the United States, we have China, we have Russia. If something happens, right, a lot of the important people will come here. If we can't accommodate that, right, we have a backup, which is China. And then if China fails, everybody goes to Russia.
So, Mike, when you say if America fails, or what would cause that? I mean, what are they anticipating that would require them to create an artificial sun?
Well, it's a power center. They're not going to have solar power because the nature of the sun is going to change, and solar panels are not going to work.
Wow.
You can't have a solar panel at top side of the earth when the earth is burning. And if you look back in history, about 7 times in history, vitrification took place, which means sand turned to glass on the surface of the earth. Temperatures have to be pretty high to turn sand into glass. And that happened plenty of times in the past, not just 1 or 2. What they did a long time ago, especially Hitler, was when he went back and did all dug up these finds with archaeologists, he covered up all the evidence so nobody else could find it. He took all this stuff back, and the U.S. followed suit. Remember, we have all the Nazi scientists right here. We have their children, grandchildren, everybody else, and they're astute people who are still steeped in sciences. They're still operational. And Brazil has the other half, but these guys are on a continuous basis. They know what happened in the past. They know this cycle is coming back again. They know this cycle is going to be the worst. So they know the truth of things. They normally publish a bunch of nonsense, and it's falling apart is what it is. Because I guarantee you right now, people could look up and see that 35 nations, major nations, are involved in the production of this fusion center that China has, just like CERN, right? Just like the International Space Station, all the money that's poured into the space station, China's involved in that too. In fact, regarding science, there is no separation between the nations. The U.S. backed away as far as on its governmental side, but as far as its investment side, science-wise, we're all in. So it's a sham.
So you said, okay, I just caught that when you said in this cycle. So in other words, let's say if we're talking about the binary system that's coming, if we're talking about Planet X, Nibiru, Planet number 9, what have you, And with these great discoveries that Steve Quayle has just unearthed down in Mexico, which talks about this cycle. Now, you mentioned something last week called a star map. Heidi has done some serious research. I'm not going to reveal what she found because she's putting that on. I don't want to say what it is because that's why you didn't tell us more about it. But the star map does talk about the return of this cycle. So, Mike, we've known about this. The ancients knew about it. Other civilizations lived through it or were wiped out during it. And we know it's coming again, but this time it must be going to be worse. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. It is. It is always said that this is the last time. This is the only time we will go through this cycle without the angelic presence here on this earth.
What do you mean? Okay, without the angelic presence. So in other words, we're gone.
All the other times in history, there are the extraordinary stories. Now, a lot of them are flamed in our day, right? Because they have the characters all mixed up. But most of your ruins, like in Rome and all these places that stood with the obelisks, they stand for a numerical system, a counting system and calendars. That's what you find all over the world, right? It was so bad that they left a warning that they hoped that their children could figure out. See, they were thinking, we're going to have grandchildren upon grandchildren. How do we warn them about what's coming so they can actually understand it? All the archaeology that people see, it has to do with what? The stars. Why? Because it's a calendar. It's a countdown to what's coming. And it's just like the Pantheon in Greece and all these characters and everything else, the way they pass down their stories by way of song and by way of poems and things like that. We have made that to be some sort of a story. And it's not really some fanciful story. It's a very real set of events that will most certainly take place. But of course, in this day and age, everything is somewhat fantasized. But yeah, they knew this cycle was coming, and this is said to be the last one.
So in other words, to be able to create enough energy to manage all of these underground cities to help overcome or post-apocalyptic world, because the rest of the world on top is going to be burning. There might be some people who survive that. If they are, they're the nomads. You know, they can filter in later with the rest of society that's left. To do that, you have to have an artificial sun to generate enough power during a dark winter, and this is a real dark winter because of the darkness that will be upon and I'm talking about the smoke and the ash. You can't breathe, and the sun's going to be darkened. I mean, wouldn't you say that's kind of what's going to happen, or at least that's what they think?
That's right. Also remember this, because all countries are involved in contributing to this star on Earth. Remember, they're building more than one. When the facility in China, which is a hardened facility, when they actually get all the mathematics right, then they will replicate what they did in other places. All those components have been made more than once. It's almost like they make 4 or 5 components at the same time. So when one works, when they get everything lined out with one, they can fire up the other ones. All they have to do is, these days, all they have to do is by way of computer, because everything has servos and stepper motors for very fine precision alignment of this, that, or the other. All they have to do is plug in the values. One of the major components that takes most of the energy are the supermagnets. The supermagnets that they have located at CERN, they have some that are, I believe they're in Spain right now, and I believe they are at least 7 times bigger than the ones at CERN. One of the greatest achievements of CERN were the magnets, not so much the experimentation of particle collision, but the magnets. We've already had particle weapons back in the 40s, but the magnets are one of the greatest things they ever made, because every time they fire this up, our magnetosphere is disturbed, and they found that they can exceed the distance of the magnetosphere artificially with CERN. So if you can make your own magnetosphere, you're good to go. Remember, you can't go underground if the Earth's magnetosphere has failed or has altered to a degree where it really won't do its job. humans can't survive anyway. Our neurological connections will not stay. And so they're going to replicate this, right? They do it on spacecraft. They do it on Elon Musk knows all about it. If you don't have it, you can't survive. You can't think. We require the magnetosphere to continue to operate neurologically. The astronauts in Russia found this out when theirs started to break, and they turned into raving lunatics and, clawing each other to pieces. But they're gonna replicate this, and they've already got that perfected. All they need now is the actual power to sustain it, to keep it going. And so there you go. They are planning. They are always walking toward their own survival. And it's so funny because in the Bible, that's precisely what they do. Even the Bible is clear that they won't share any secrets or anything else, right? Until it gets so bad that everybody turns away from mankind and they start looking back to Christ when everything falls apart with mankind. Because not one of their plans is really going to prosper. They will have the beast system. We already know that. It'll be the ruling kingdom, but only for a season, and then poof, it falls apart.
Yep.
Once it is thrust into darkness, we're in that time where we rule and reign with Christ, all those who are faithful to Christ. And then after that, there's some more stuff that happens, but it is, we're just walking right towards that point. Pastor, I found it funny too.
Yeah.
I have to point this out. In reading the Bible, I've always, when people read that, when it says, they're gonna hide themselves
in the
dens of rocks and all that stuff. Yeah. But here's something funny, and it caught my attention because of what is stated in many different languages in all these different places. Right there in that passage, it says they're going to ask the rocks basically to fall on them.
Yes, they will.
Right? Why in the world would somebody do that unless they wanted to die?
Right.
And then when you read later in Revelation, it says men will seek death and will not find it.
That's right.
The living will envy the dead. So it's not going to be a good time for them on the earth. And they're the only ones left. They messed up. They can't go anywhere. They can't die either. So, when they seek shelter, they're going to seek death over facing Christ that they cannot avoid. They cannot avoid it. They're going to be so guilty of knowing what they did, because all truth will be known at that time. They're going to rather just die, just avoid him totally than to face him. Is because when you ask a rock to fall on you, right? That's
not good.
Look at that.
That's not good,
that means
Mike.
You want to die, and it happens to be a very old Middle Eastern term.
Yeah,
it actually is an old, and that's how they used to kill people. By the way, they used to put a big stone on them to kill them. They used to do that, and that kind of shocked me. So these guys are not going to fare very well.
The scripture Mike's talking about, folks, is in Revelation chapter 6 when it says, "I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal." This is verse 12. This is Revelation 6:12. He opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. So here we go again with this situation. The stars of heaven fell into the earth, and even as a fig tree would cast her untimely figs when she's shaken of a mighty wind. So there's some deep impacts coming for sure. And the heaven departed as a scroll. I wonder sometimes if this artificial sun doesn't have something to do with this. When it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. This is bad, okay? And then it says the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the chief captains, the mighty men, and every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, let's say underground cities, and they said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? So this sets up the wrath of God, and they're seeing it unfold, and it's a bad day when you're asking the rocks to smother you.
Yeah, I thought about that because in over 136 civilizations, it was also stated that during that time, men would contemplate nothing but suicide. But when they shut their eyes, they would not be able to escape the hell that was coming for them.
Oh, my Lord.
Imagine the people walking, but when they shut their eyes and try to get away from everything, instantly they're in judgment, right? They see flashes of judgment, and they can't even shut their eyes to go to sleep. They have no rest whatsoever, because when they shut their eyes, they're haunted by way of their mind dreams and everything. When their eyes are open, they're seeing the desolation on the earth. See, that's why I'm so thankful that it also says right after in chapter 7 that all those people standing before the Lord, they came out of great tribulation.
That's what it says.
Out of great tribulation.
Yep.
And I have a funny thing for you.
Yep.
I can, it would take 3 scriptures to bring this out. I'll email them to you, Pastor. I'll make sure I do this. But guess what? You know what living in this world is called?
What's that?
For a saint, it's called great tribulation.
Yeah.
Living in this world for a saint is called great tribulation.
Yeah, that's right.
It's literally called great tribulation.
Yeah, just living here right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
It's already,
that's right.
It's already a struggle. All right, Mike, having that, let's move into another area here. I want to talk about witchcraft goes off the charts, but before I go there,
yes, it is.
I want to ask you, okay, we had a blood moon. Just before the blood moon, we had an 11-day war in the Holy Lands. After the blood moon, just before the solar eclipse we're getting ready to have, we have a brand new government in Israel. New prime minister, new president. Of course, I know there's a little bit of a delay, 3 or 4 days. There's a procedural thing, but it's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, we have, as this is coming, and Netanyahu knows he's about gone, all of a sudden, we see explosions everywhere. Around Damascus, we see, in Iran, we see chemical plants and weapons depots blowing up. And then the largest warship in all of Iran's Navy sinks? Are you serious? So, Mike, who sank the warship? Don't say it was just an accidental fire in the middle of the night. Are you serious?
The men of strength, the men of action. Listen, I would not want to be a leader in this world right now. Whoever's leading a nation in this world right now is in big trouble. Take note of something. All the men of strength, all the men who would stand up and make decisions, gone.
Men
they're
of
gone.
strength.
All of them, they're gone. All the ones that had strength, they had stamina, they were ready to face down anything, they did not run, they're gone. Every single last one of them are gone. The only ones that are left are those who like to sit at a table. Those are the other ones that are left. All the ones that will stand up and actually do something are gone. Listen to me. When they found out that the election was going the opposite direction, right? Yeah. That emboldened. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of individuals. The Taliban right now is organizing. They're going to take everything. They're going to take back everything. And people, I hope you understand that they're over here too. They're in America too. The only reason they couldn't do anything is because they were forbidden to operate on a global scale, because there were too many men of action, generals of action, who would stand up and do something about it. Right?
When you say men of action, so you're saying, okay, we know Donald Trump's gone. Now we know Netanyahu's gone. There were some top generals that all of a sudden disappeared. Am I right?
And that's it. It was just like this, basketball. The trust was so high that a general could make a military call, and the president would say, you know what, you made the right move, I'm going to back you. But see, now under any other type of administration, it's going to follow the paperwork, which means if a general operates outside of his command authority, he's prosecuted. He's gone.
He's sunk. Yep.
We had a president who could see that in a general and could understand it and say, okay, that goes. Now, listen, I don't agree with all men. I don't agree with that.
Right.
But I'll tell you something. When you're at the goal line, right, and the other team has built up its forces, so you can't get the touchdown, you need an aggressive quarterback. That's what you need. You need some aggressive folks up on the line to break through to make the goal, or you're not going to make it. And just like in the ancient kingdoms, God, according to what they had to do, he set men up so they could accomplish whatever God desired them to accomplish. And guess what we did? When we had a person in, right, we cried too much. We started looking and blaming and pointing fingers and everything else, and we couldn't see the importance of what's about to take place. So now that we have compromisers, we have people who actually sit down at tables and they believe that everything can be solved that way. I'm sorry. You cannot deal with a radical faith at a table. You cannot do that. They'll talk to you, and as soon as you turn your back, they're going to blow you up on your way out.
Right.
And this is precisely what's going to happen. The Iranian ship, that came from the desperate, that came from a call inside before power is switched. Military commanders, specifically the Mossad, still has power to do certain things under standing orders. Until those orders are changed, they can still operate. Now, take note of what happened also. All these rocket launches, right? Israel said during all these rocket launches that Iran was funding Hamas, right? And they were breaking down that funding chain. Well, they just happened to hit the heart of that funding chain. And they broke it down because here was the plan. It was just a couple of days ago they said Hamas was stating, we're going to do it again, and we're getting all new armaments. Israel said, no, you're not. No, you're not. And they put a halt to it as best they could. So now you have Egypt. They have no choice but to rise up militarily now. I can tell you something. I just, these leaders that we're going to have in the world, they're going to be men who only talk. They'll have no action. They're going to talk.
Would you say right now, Mike, though, that Egypt's President El-Sisi is a man of strength? And would you say that Vladimir Putin is still a man of strength?
Yeah, Putin is, but Putin's under threat internally under his own side.
Yeah, that's true.
That Putin is pressured politically so much. I mean, he can do whatever he wants, but he still has to maintain some type of international appearance. This guy has, he has good favor with the countries around him, and he's taking over where the U.S. is failing. He steps in, right? Yeah. Every time we have a Republican, the U.S. gains its power back. Yeah, we do. It's just how it works. Yeah. Every time we have a Democrat, because they're getting more and more left, every time we do that, they don't believe in fighting, using the military. So we get weaker and weaker and everything else. Yeah, we get weak as water. People take advantage of it. Yeah. It'd be like running a prison, right? But you don't lock the doors. Yeah. And then on top of that, the guards have flashlights only. Right? That's it. That's not. And on top of that, none of them weigh over 95 pounds. That's just not going to work too well. Right? No. You have to have some sort of presence, but then know that presence is going to be tested, and you have to respond. And unfortunately, this is going to spark some of the greatest wars, internal wars and external wars we've ever seen. It's already begun if people would open their eyes. As we talked about many years ago, Pastor Paul, that the Third World War would begin with all these cyber problems. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
You also remember when you get too many people involved in these scenarios, mistakes happen. Mistakes happen, and when that takes place, well, then there you go.
Let's move into another area then, Mike. Folks, this is Mike from Around the World with us tonight, of course. I want to welcome all of you here tonight. And listen, when you start looking at these things that are happening, folks, this is what the Bible said would happen. These exact things we're talking about tonight was prophesied to be a part. We just read part of it for you out of the Bible. We could read every one of these out of the Bible. Mike, you told us first, and this is some of the things that people pick up on, and then later it starts to manifest like, whoa, he told us that. Over a year ago, I'm going to say it was about 18 months ago, you said there's getting ready to be a food shortage. There's going to be empty shelves. The selection is going to dwindle, and there won't be as much volume on the shelf. We're now, we just had a meat hack on the JBS, which is the largest meat slaughtering system in the world. They just got hacked, and they just shut down, apparently, if that's true. And they're, of course, the first thing the media does is says it's Russia, Russia, Russia. Now, they're also the ones saying that the big pipeline that was flowing into the Northeast was Russia, Russia, Russia. I just got to ask you, you knew this was coming, and you knew it before there's a hack. Matter of fact, it was already happening before the hack. So is the hack real, or is it a part of what is part of the message to get us to believe that we can't ever have enough food? What's going on?
Well, it's kind of both. It's natural human behavior to play with computers, and you have these ransom groups out there that will operate, right? All you have to do is let a couple through and let them do what they have to do, and then, this situation gets worse.
Did Russia do it? Do you have any intel on anybody from Russia?
Russia would not. Russia likely did not directly do it, right? But you have to
Right.
remember something. In that world, in that cyber community, there are no borders, right? You could have people sitting right now in New York, Texas, or whatever, but their attacks are going to originate from Russia. In the cyber world, you really can't say they're Russian. You really can't say they're from China, they're from Russia, they're from this group, because borders make no sense. You're dealing with IP numbers, you're dealing with ident numbers, you're dealing with MAC addresses, you're dealing with equipment serial numbers and packet numbers, and you can make those up anytime you want. You can assimilate. One person can break themselves up into a million pieces, reassemble in some other country, non-traceable, and have that attack come from a different place. So you really can't say a sport. It could be the guy next door. It could be Joe. It could be, who knows? I was about to say JB, but I can't say that.
Yeah, you be careful there. Yeah.
It could be anybody, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying. So when you have cyber attacks, the nature of cyber attacks is such an unwarranted, is such a place where you really can't identify components that anybody can do anything and blame it on anybody. But they know what the public is likely to believe. Here's the issue with that. Whatever they say on the news, the public seems to, half of the public will accept. They will buy it. The other half will not. They already know this. And so they kind of did that from a neutral point. Here's the problem. These ransom groups have been around for years. They have been doing what they've been doing do you know how much money Walmart paid out for ransom groups? Do you know how much?
No, I don't know. No, I don't.
We're talking billions of dollars. These companies have paid out billions of dollars to these groups, and they didn't tell a soul about that, right? So there's always been these attacks. But here's the issue. They're announcing it now. That's what everybody should wake up about. They should first find out that these attacks are not brand new, number one. Number two, they're finally telling the public. Why are they telling the public this? Well, I'll tell you why. You ready? This will be the fourth time I said this same thing. Through cyber attacks, through a loss of food, through a loss of a lot of things, people are going to say, hey, we need more security. They're going to say, well, we're going to give you more security. It's called a biochip. We're going to give you guys a biochip, and no one will be able to hack anything again with these chips, right? So in order to get on this network, you have to be authenticated biologically. So if you get this, but the people are going to call for it. Now, do you see how that's going to operate?
Yep.
I said this before, and I guess it was too premature, because they're not going to force it on people. The people are going to call for it. They're going to say, yes, give it to us now. We're suffering too much. And you can see where this stuff is going.
Yeah, this is part of the setup. Start a supply chain shortage. Start a price gouging. Get the people upset. Then start blaming it on cyber attacks. And go ahead and let some cyber attacks happen. Let some banks get hacked. Let some people's livelihood get hacked. Let all kinds of different stuff. Let plants shut down. And get the people to start begging for a new security system. A new, let more people. You know what? Everybody I know, I've had it happen to me. Almost everybody I know has had their bank account hacked.
That's
right.
Like
one time, $291 was taken from my bank. Somebody withdrew it from an ATM in New York, in the Bronx. I wasn't even there. Then I had to go and get everything changed. Then about 3 years later, I get another hack. And it was always less than $300, and that's because $300 is a felony. So you stay in the misdemeanor level, and the Russian hackers do this, and the Romanians do it, and the Americans do it. Everybody does it, right? So you're saying you get the public so frustrated with hacking that they start demanding security, and the lawmakers love it, and they all run around. Next thing you know, we have a new biosystem, a new chip biosystem, right?
That's right. That you'll be authenticated based on your DNA. And that has to be on you. That has to be on you on a continuous basis. By having that means every other system also can identify you for who you are. And you have no more hacking. Right? Nobody can get into your account because they don't have your DNA. And when they do this, the system is being set up already. So all they would have to do is kind of flip it over and say, okay, guys, whoever wants in, we're going to have to make sure you're not terrorists. So what do they integrate to make sure that people are not terrorists? The same thing they do now, an oath of allegiance.
Here we go.
That's what they do now, an oath of allegiance. And that oath of allegiance, right, I will not take. I'll tell you why. I will take no, I'm not going to, because in any oath of citizenship or anything else, you have to recant, you have to put down anything you followed before. That means you can't,
even your God.
You have to renounce Christ.
Yep.
You have to renounce your faith. You have to renounce everything and become a part of that citizenship. I will not do it. So I just won't be a citizen.
Now,
I'm going to be sitting on the outside.
To back up what you're saying. So, folks, that's what I'm saying, because I've been asked this a million times. Pastor, is this the mark? Is this the mark of the beast? Is this? I'm like, no, it could be the technology used. That could be part of the technology or system used. But you won't be tricked into this, because you have to sign a document that renounces Christ. And if you don't believe me, Justin Trudeau in Canada just did it. They just announced they have $720 million for a youth work program for this summer. You can sign up and get a job by the government of Canada to work for the summer if you're a youth. Only, though, you have to sign a document that says that, number one, that you will not resist anyone with abortion. And so you can't be a resistor of abortion. You can't stand in the way of people wanting to be. And also you'll have to renounce Christianity, because because Christianity, they said, is the most dangerous philosophy and ideology in Canada. You have to literally renounce Jesus Christ.
That's right.
So your allegiance that you just said, absolutely, you're going to sign on the bottom line. And you know what? People are going to be standing in line by the millions to sign it. They want it.
That's right. Because you know what, it's the language is there already. You know, if you go out there and read a common oath, it'll say, "I hereby declare an oath, absolutely and entirely renounce, and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty." I'm not doing that stuff, because if you renounce any sovereignty, that is God Almighty, who is the Father of my life, Christ Jesus, who is the Savior of my life, my Prince. That word prince is in there. Foreign prince means not a local prince. So they're renouncing everything. I won't do it, and it's coming to this quickly. We're going to have more cyber attacks that will lead to massive shortages on top of the troubles that we're having already. You can just imagine how desperate people will become. And I'm telling you now, this is why, Pastor, I tell you, walking in the Spirit right now, because instead of people fussing and arguing and all this, what they ought to do is say, wait a minute, am I able in these circumstances to maintain my Christianity no matter what? That's what they ought to do, because the Lord gives us an opportunity to walk spiritually. He will foreshadow every single event we'll ever go through if we would just pay attention.
Amen.
Right?
Amen. Mike, here's what it says. Then we're going to go to a sinkhole in Mexico that's blowing our minds and see if you can tell us why. Here's when Mike talks about you have to sign an allegiance. We'd have to give up your allegiance to God to take this mark or this system. Here's what it says in Revelation 13:15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And that, so it's again, DNA, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that have the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. And here's wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast. For it is the number of a man, and his number is 366, or 666. So, Mike, folks, I don't know if we could ever say, right now we're talking about the mark of the beast, because it starts with people being hungry and can't get access to food and getting hacked here and there, and security gets out of control. And Mike is exactly right. They're going to beg for it. They're going to call for it. Mike, we're going to show you something right now. We want to talk to you a little bit about this. Israel, we're going to show them this massive sinkhole. And can you see the screen, Mike, where you're at?
Let me see if I can pull this up past Paul.
Let me get past... I'll get to the video part. Whoops. Oh, here we go. Where'd the video go? Oh, here it is. Okay. Tell me when you can see this, Mike. And then
okay, let me see it. Let me patch in here, and I should be there in just that. There it is. Okay, I see it.
Okay. Now I'm going to play this
Looks
video.
Looks like a mini Grand Canyon.
Yeah, look at this. I mean, you're exactly right. Okay, so as this thing, whoops, let me start it at the beginning. Here it is. And I don't know, are these people in danger? This thing's 225 feet in diameter and bottomless, or some kind of bottom somewhere, but nobody knows where. Are they in danger here?
Yeah.
And Mike, you might be a little delay behind me, but as it's panning over it, folks, look at how large this is. And it's water. They don't know how deep it is. Water rose up after a while. So what in the world caused this, Mike?
Yeah, that's I guarantee you that's salt water. I can guarantee you that's salt water.
What?
Yeah, I guarantee you that's salt water.
It's the middle of nowhere, Mexico, Mike. How could salt water be coming up in the middle?
Well, they have what's the name of those places that like water holes out there in Mexico, right? In several different places, especially at the Yucatan Peninsula. They have places out there that they used to have fresh water in them. Now, because of saltwater intrusion, most of that water now is salt water. Some of the underground caverns also were fresh water, very clear, right? They're being taken over. It's saltwater intrusions happening to them all likewise, which means we have a big difference in geometry underneath the water is taking place, and certainly the Earth is going through these geological events, and our Earth is expanding due to magma, and so things are swelling and collapsing, causing great massive caverns underneath the Earth to open up. All sorts of things are happening underneath the Earth, which is one of my biggest concerns, Pastor Paul, because in having something in Peru, Bolivia, Chile, Paraguay, those places is one thing. But when it creeps up right to Nicaragua, up to Honduras, and into Mexico, we're going to have a problem in California. And this is one of my I follow these things that happen up through that area geologically, because right there is a trigger to the land masses in California and Mexico. So Mexico's stability is imperative for California, their continuance. Once Mexico begins to exhibit instabilities in their land masses, California's in trouble. I can almost guarantee you that's not going to be the last sinkhole. But that certainly is not. That's relatively tiny for the geological footprint in that area. Also, there's some real geological formations taking place underground. The Earth is expanding at an incredible rate, and so that certainly won't be the last. But it's creeping. It looks like it's creeping up towards the States, because these larger sinkholes began in Paraguay, right? They crept up, moving up through the Amazon. They were looking at entire forest areas, just went down in the water, right, in the Amazon. So you're looking at a situation like this, and now it's crept up that far, right? It starts in the southern hemisphere, creeping up to the northern hemisphere.
So you're saying that the earth is expanding. The Bible says that hell had to be enlarged, and that without measure, okay? So you're saying that the earth is being pulled apart, it's expanding, and that's going to start causing, magma's moving like crazy, and all of a sudden these rips underneath the continents, that holes are going to open, just massive. And so you're concerned about San Diego. I've heard you say many times you're worried that you believe that San Diego is going to actually just go like that. It's just going to tip.
I do. I really do.
45-degree angle and just tip.
I really do.
Is this part of the sign of that? Because you say it's from Mexico on up to like Arizona.
Yeah. When Mexico, when their geological problems turn volcanic, and don't ask me why, but it will be accompanied by many people being drawn down at this border. It'll break loose. It'll break loose. That entire peninsula with Baja California, all the way up to San Diego and Los Angeles, those places belong to the same slate of rock, the same slab of rock, and It is just an accident waiting to happen. It wouldn't be so bad if the population were not as it is now, right? But we're going to see drastic changes in the land. Somebody asked me the other day in a very serious conversation, well, where do you go to avoid these things? Well, you can't do that. You can't predict a safe place. That there's no such thing as predicting a safe place. That's in the Father's hands. It's going to eventually affect everybody. Christ is the safest place, but geologically, there really is no safe place to run, because eventually it's going to touch everything and everybody.
So you got to run to Christ. I mean, there ain't nowhere to hide here. Place. I mean,
because if you get away from the land turning upside down, if you run to the East Coast, you're going to be underneath the waters. And if you run to the center of America, you might split wide open and end up in a lava lake or something. And if you run from the mountains, they may sink and a new landmass come up right beside you. You can't run. You can't run from this. Geological changes they're not new. It's just that we have not we've not experienced this with this type of civilization that we have right now. And these changes are coming fast and furious.
All right, Mike, I'm going to ask you, now that we're talking about this, last week you mentioned about a huge super volcano, I believe, underwater volcano was the word you used, in the North Pacific is waking up. Now, Heidi's done some research, and of course, everything we talked about last Thursday is actually going to be posted up on Patreon tomorrow, Heidi's analyzation. Can you tell us a little more about that? She did some research and she found this and she went, whoa, you might want to ask him about that again. Tell us about it, Mike.
That's false. It's a big danger. It's a huge danger. In fact, that same place is known as the let me see if I can get this right. It's in a very strange language, but it says the mountain that will anoint the world, right? It will cleanse the world, anoint the world. This is one of the biggest monsters in our solar system that we have observed so far. We're talking about, of all the planets out there, we have a monster right here on Earth, and it's waking up. And it is
what?
This thing is massive. This thing is massive.
Okay, now what's the closest? What's the closest largest American city? Can you just give us that?
Well, you can't even speak in terms of cities. Here's why: because you would have to say that in the scale of this thing, the United States itself, the entire continent, would be a city. Okay, so you really can't say. That would be like if we said what city, it'd be like what anthill is near Mount St. Helens or something like that. But that wouldn't make sense, right? Because it will take out too much. This thing is a global killer, is what this thing is. If it goes off, and it likely will, it will affect all of the atmosphere for many years. It really will affect the entire atmosphere. It will kill everything in the North Pacific Ocean. There will be nothing in the North or South Pacific Ocean for that matter. Australia is going to have a big problem. It probably won't be there. Japan will not be there. China will be, those provinces of Asia, they're going to be all ate up. All these small islands, Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam going down, they won't be there.
What about Hawaii? Does Hawaii got a chance?
The Hawaii? No, it's too close. It's right there Hawaii is at the eastern lip of this thing, right? Japan is at the western lip of this thing. So that will give you an idea how big this thing is.
Okay, that gives me a good idea. If you look on the geographical map, guys, you can find Hawaii, find Japan, and start shaping this diameter and start figuring out and that's massive. So that is going to affect the United States.
Oh yeah, because you're looking at something the size. It's just about 3/4 the size of the Ring of Fire.
I mean, it's going to blow the whole. Look, there'll be a tsunami like 2,000 feet high, and then fire, and it won't matter. Basically, the sky will get darkened.
Imagine if this thing blew, right? If this thing blew, because it's so big. Let's give it a normal eruption. Now, given the scale of it, it does not necessarily mean it's going to erupt like other volcanoes. It does mean it's going to eject a lot of material. All right. The material it will eject will be ocean-borne, which means a lot of steam, a lot of poisonous gases are going to come up from the ocean. And the waters in the ocean will likely turn red, is what we'll have. They will turn red from the outside.
So the water will turn blood red.
Oh, yeah, that water will turn red. There will be no sea life in there either because it will be a little too acidic for sea life, any kind of life, period. So anything in that vicinity is going to be gone, is going to be just poisoned. Now, in the atmosphere, this thing, when it blows in the atmosphere, because it's ocean-borne, columns of smoke are going to come up so thick, so heavy, so full of debris that after its first explosion, however that happens, it's going to send debris out, yes, but following that is a bunch of soot and smoke, right, which is going to start to settle over the whole face of the earth. There probably won't be one spot of the earth that won't experience a thick blackness. I mean some super blackness. And the poisons that this thing will release will touch everything. It'll touch everything and everybody that's left here. One of the bad issues is it's not spoken about. People never really hear of this. They don't even hear of Tomomasis. They don't hear of some of the other monsters out there. They don't hear of it. They don't know about it. They're still talking about Yellowstone. They don't even know that the volcano right there by Italy is bigger than Yellowstone. So that puts Yellowstone, even by what's known, at number 4 or number 5 as far as size. So, we got some pretty big problems out there. Italy sits atop another monster. Yeah. That whole area is beginning to become active, which nobody looked at. And of course, my heart goes out to them because I know nobody's going to really take it serious. I knew they wouldn't back then, and I know right now they're not going to take any of this this beast over there, the big one. They're not going to take that seriously. The public won't. They're not going to talk about it. That would incite too much panic, too much everything. They're going to talk about everything but that. And when this thing goes, and it will go, there will be, it's just going to be devastating. It really will. So
again, we're looking at an apocalyptic situation. It's good.
They won't be prepared for that.
And can the binary system, let's say Planet X, Nibiru, let's say, can it, from its pressure, from its gravitational pull, can it help explode one of these things?
From sheer excitation, Pastor, of the magnetic field around it, it absolutely can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it can do that prior to us ever seeing the secondary system.
We probably will never see it. You're saying this stuff will happen before we even see it.
Absolutely. It does not have to. Look, our sun has an effect all the way outside of Pluto, right?
Yeah.
Our sun causes something giant called the heliosphere.
Yep.
It surrounds the entire solar system. This binary twin, or somebody said, well, what if we don't have a binary? I said, well, we're coming in proximity to other solar systems. They have stars too. Their stars have these giant fields around it. It's going to excite the fields around the Earth. It's going to double the activity of the sun, so much so it will change the sun's chemistry, right?
Yeah,
and then
it'll suck the helium. It'll suck the helium right out of it.
Right, there's no escape. And when these things eventually they're going to happen to us, but it's just unfortunate that a good understanding of they denied these things for so long that for the sake of money, for the sake of popularity, they dodge these subjects, and people who do talk about these subjects sound like lunatics.
People better get ready.
Nobody ever heard of it.
People better get seriously ready because I understand what's coming. 2 more subjects, Mike. 2 more subjects. We'll come back to the star map last. But you mentioned last week witchcraft will go off the charts. Can you elaborate on that a little bit today?
Oh, man. Pastor, I'll tell you that the saddest thing is that there are so many people engaged, and they don't even know they're engaged, right? Let me start by saying, I believe it was 2000, and somebody from CO2 would have to help me. I think it was 2014 or 15, right? I remember speaking one time, and I was kind of hurt because I had just I was looking at a notebook, right? A printed notebook, and in this notebook, I saw programming, and within that programming, I saw many shows on television that were going to be authorized. these shows were authorized. At the time, they really weren't, right?
Okay.
I believe the only thing that was on television at that time was a show called The Ghost Hunters. Nothing else was on.
Okay, yeah.
But that was it. Well, after reading that notebook, they were going to open up and devote certain channels to the paranormal activity. They had a name for it, and they have a purpose behind it. They have an engagement plan with it. And it's absolutely happening, because ever since that time that they have released all these channels with this paranormal stuff on there, right? People have been taking note that they are becoming the authority on how to discern the spiritual realm, right?
Yep.
So people are believing them. The unseen world. Let me give you an example. I heard this one lady. I heard her say this, and she said that when somebody has scratches all over them after they experience paranormal activity, it's not a demon or anything like that. It's a misunderstanding. It's just a ghost trying to get your attention. But here's what's funny. These people are talking about little child ghosts and things like that, right? But then you often hear them say they mix voodoo, they mix Christianity and everything else. They're making up this stuff. But here's the sad part. They're emboldening people to go out and say hello to spirits, right? Trying to help the spirits. Now, Pastor, keep track of this. People in this notebook was to give people a mindset, right, to assist the birthing. Is what they're doing. They're
assist the birthing. Okay, now time out. Okay, so you saw a notebook. In other words, I saw a notebook. You saw
this was in black and white.
Yeah, you saw a plan that was getting ready to be implemented on television to deceive the public. And you said they had, because they know they have an engagement coming, which apparently means a engagement with Lucifer or the beast, and they're going to try to. They want to take the narrative of spirituality away from the church, and they want to be the one that sets the narrative on everything spiritual, including aliens and everything else, demons, aliens, angels, everything, which is why we're doing a conference, a webinar called Aliens, Angels, and Demons. We want to set the narrative based on Scripture and based on actual facts. Well, you're saying they're trying to hijack this category to deceive the people into the birthing of what?
Well, they want, they're doing it already. It's happening already. They want people to become accustomed to all paranormal activity and to not necessarily fear it, but to respect
to embrace it.
They need people to need it. It's what they need. And it's working. It's working because there's too many people out there that are saying, oh, I wish I could see something, right? Take Bigfoot, for instance. How many people want to see Bigfoot? Even the people that sit there and say there's no such thing as Bigfoot.
They still want to see it, right? Yeah.
Why in the world are they saying this? I'm going to give a warning because it's coming. It's coming. And I may sound like a crazy person. When people do see what's behind the veil, they're going to fall on their knees and beg forgiveness and ask God to take the memory away. And He will not do it. He's not going to do it. See, people are blessed right now not to see that stuff. They don't know. Their life is never going to be the same if they do see anything on that other side. It is nothing like the world has said it was, and it does not follow any type paradigm, and it doesn't care who believes it or not. And those things are absolutely deadly, especially to souls that are not filled, that are people running around empty. They haven't committed to Christ. They haven't committed to anything. They're just open to everything. These folks are just dog food, right? And more people are adopting this behavior. This is suicide. This is spiritual suicide.
Yep.
And here's what's disturbing, though. The Christians many Christians are complacent.
Oh, yes.
They won't even step up to say what the Lord says.
No.
They won't do it. They shy away in corners and stuff like they're afraid that somebody's going to say something about them. Well, I'm sorry, but even the Bible, Jesus said the world's going to hate you. It hated me. It's going to hate you too. It sought to kill me. It's going to seek to kill you too. Yeah. So a Christian should never think that the world is just simply going to invite them to dinner and love them all the rest of their lives.
That's right.
They're going to be supernaturally assaulted from day one to the end of their days. But these, we have prayer, Pastor Paul, and as well as I do, there are a lot of people who just simply don't believe in prayer the way they should.
And you know something, Mike, when you talk about this, see, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. And you got to bring every thought in the captivity of Christ and the obedience. Right. Now, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness high places. You know, these princes of the power of the air. We know who we're battling, and we know where the arena we're battling in, or at least we should. But you're exactly right, and I'm going to take a step further than just the Christians. I'm going to say, let me speak to the leadership out there, pastors and evangelists and folks involved in ministry. You got to know how to fight spiritual warfare. You can't act like it doesn't exist, or it's just something we don't really do. Are you serious? I mean, if you're going to lead people through the darkness into the light, you better know that you are dealing with the darkness, okay? And I think, Mike, you're on the money. You're dead on the money. That witchcraft, that demonic forces, that evil that lurks deep and dark into the darkest crevices of the human existence and the soul of man. You know, I keep hearing the president talk about this is the battle for the heart and soul of America. That's one thing he's saying right. This is a battle for the heart and soul of America. And it starts within the spiritual realm of each and individual person, that we can't be inundated with this stuff. Mike, so in other words, the Notebook is saying they're going to inundate us with a false narrative of supernatural things. Lying, signs, and wonders.
That's right.
Is the manifestation of the beast.
And Pastor Paul, guess is God has given man dominion over the earth, correct?
Yep.
So man has authority.
Yep.
People are allowing Satan to trick them into authorizing darkness to come in through them into their lives.
No gurus.
Because the manifestations have already begun. They have already begun, Pastor Paul, and it's not good.
All right,
but it's
all right. That's one more subject, Mike, real fast here. Star map. You mentioned a star map, which Heidi then did some serious research, and I'm not even going to bring up what she found. She's going to put this in a Patreon. But could you help us understand these ancient scripts or tablets of stone or things that have been written down?
Oh, my.
What are we talking about with the star map, Mike?
Pastor Paul, we're talking about something that shouldn't exist, basically, right?
Right.
For example, just now we have the technology to see in the distance, right?
Right.
How in the world could they document what no one can see with the naked eye?
I don't know.
How could they document an entire galaxy, another galaxy out there, which you cannot see with a telescope? You can't see it that close. How could they document what's inside that galaxy and then just, whack it right there in stone? And why would they put it in stone in the first place? And why in Mexico, right? Is there in Mexico, in Ohio? Ohio is a hot spot right now, right? It is a super hot spot. And but there all these findings, Pastor Paul, they're going to show people. And I hate to say this, but because they're flipping the paradigm on what spiritualism is and what the spiritual realm is, people will see the evidence, and instead of saying, you know what, the Bible was right, they're going to say, you know what, they do exist. That's all they're going to say is they do exist. Because in those star maps are details that even if you saw them, you wouldn't believe them. The accuracy is
incredible. You can't know.
It's astounding.
You can't. I looked at it today, some of them. I looked at one in particular that I think you probably was no doubt looking at. You can't know where these stars are. You can't see them from the Earth with a telescope. You would have to be deep, deep, deep in space to see them.
That's right.
And how we know they're there, you say, well, Paul, how you know they're there? Because we've got probes that are now deep, and have found them, and they match the ancient star maps inscribed in the caves.
That's right. They were already there, right? Even part of that. There's a gate. There's a cosmic gate that's right here on this earth. The top half, there's a quarter of it missing, right? We're not talking about like Hollywood's that stuff. We're talking about a real gate that it's etched in a crystalline marble or something like that. This thing is old and crusty and rusty looking, right? But it is what's on it is mind-blowing. It's kind of like it matches. In fact, it has a sister in Antarctica, which is of a black grayish stone, which is super, super thick, and it fits in part of the piece of that door in Alaska. So, you know, all these things, people are going to find out about all these things, Pastor Paul, but I can say this with the utmost certainty. When people find out the truth about it, it's going to be nothing like they thought it was going to be, and they're going to try to erase certain things out of their minds. There are concepts out there that God protects us from, right? Because once you realize what has existed and what is more than possible but is in fact present, your life changes. You live a different way. You then understand that every moment of your life is a blessing, that you're standing upright and you have control of your own faculties, because there are so many things we're protected from. We often, it's almost like we're on a bus or something, right? And the bus is about to go off the cliff, but an angel comes up and moves it into a different direction, but nobody ever sees the angel and nobody ever knows that it changed the direction. God does so many things in our lives on a moment-to-moment basis that we don't know about. But see, we're about to find out how he has intervened and have a good understanding of that. In that hour, in that day, when we comprehend this, just many of us will go into tears of thanks, but there'll be a lot of people who will be crushed for taking it for granted. But either way, it can't be erased. Once you see things, you cannot unsee them. You just can't unsee them. And
change the prophecies of the Bible.
Can't. No, they're never going to change. They will be fulfilled, Pastor. And they're coming quicker than we expect them to come.
Yes, they are. Mike, what are we going to talk about next week?
Well, you know, Israel is on my heart. That is, Israel's on my heart. But other than that, Pastor Paul, I have to tell you this. You remember that? Did anybody ever have a feeling around 911?
Yeah.
There's a feeling, like a feeling, like something is wrong and nobody's fixing it type thing.
Yeah.
This same thing has arisen twice, right? It's risen twice. And that with a dream, a weird dream. 2 desert doors open up, and guess what flies through?
What?
A slew of bats. Bats were flying all over the place.
2
bats.
Desert doors open up.
Yeah, 2 big desert doors opened up.
And bats come out.
Bats came in. Bats came in through the door. They didn't fly over the top. They came through the doors. Bats. I mean, just tons of bats.
Bats came out of the desert doors, or they went in?
Yeah, they came through the doors. It was almost like the gate. The 2 desert gates, they had walls on them, and people were protected inside, right?
And the bats.
But the doors opened, and a bunch of bats flew in. So nobody was protected. These things were vicious looking, right? They were not black. They were brown. These bats were brown. They were the same color as the sand. They came right through the gates. I thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, all right. Well, now you make me think about that, and let everybody, prayer warrior we got out there, pray about that. And we'll be back to talk to you about that next week, all right? Folks, better get ready. 7,400 of you here, and I don't know if everybody's saved. And I don't even know if we're going to be back next Thursday, but I hope so. Mike, we'll see you next week, Lord willing.
God bless you, brother. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you so much. Mike around the world, folks. Wow. Are you saved? Are you ready? Listen, I don't know when all these things are going to happen. I'm just going to tell you, things are happening fast. What we're watching now, the prophecies that are fulfilling themselves, the technologies that's advancing, the weaponry that's being used, whether it be bioweapons, whether it be spiritual weapons, whether it be manipulations, whether it be demonic forces, whether it be wars, rumors of wars, or starvation, whatever they're going to use, it's to get you to give up your hope in Jesus.